The Arizona Cardinals in 2008 didn't just win, they finally mattered. After decades of being the NFL's forgotten team, they caught fire at just the right time. Led by 37-year-old Kurt Warner, the Cardinals stumbled to a 9-7 regular season record. They got into the playoffs basically because someone had to win the NFC West. But once the postseason started, everything changed. Warner threw 8 touchdowns in his first 2 playoff games. Larry Fitzgerald was unguardable, 419 yards and 5 touchdowns in 3 playoff games alone. The Cardinals beat the Falcons, stunned the Panthers, and outlasted the Eagles to reach their first Super Bowl in franchise history. In Super Bowl 43, they went toe-to-toe with the Steelers. Fitzgerald's 64-yard go-ahead touchdown with 2:37 left looked like a game winner, but the defense broke. Santonio Holmes toe-tapped Arizona into heartbreak. They didn't win the ring, but for a team with no real history, 2008 was the closest thing they've had to a Hollywood script. Atlanta Falcons, 1998, 14-2. The 1998 Atlanta Falcons didn't just win, they shocked everyone. After a 7-9 season the year before, they brought in Dan Reeves and everything clicked. Chris Chandler played the best football of his career. Jamal Anderson bulldozed defenses for 1,846 rushing yards and invented the Dirty Bird celebration. They steamrolled through the regular season, finishing 14-2, the best record in franchise history at the time. They then stunned the 15-1 Vikings in the NFC Championship. Gary Anderson, who hadn't missed a kick all season, missed a crucial field goal. Chandler led a game-tying drive. Morton Anderson sealed it in overtime. The Falcons made it to their first Super Bowl ever, and then reality hit. John Elway and the Broncos torched them 34-19. But 1998 was a miracle season. From forgotten to NFC champs in 1 year, the Falcons finally arrived. Baltimore Ravens, 2000, 12-4, Super Bowl champions. The 2000 Baltimore Ravens erased people from the field. This wasn't just a great defense. This was a shutdown, lights out, suffocate until you break unit. They gave up just 165 points all season, the fewest in a 16-game era. 4 shutouts, only 5 rushing touchdowns allowed. Ray Lewis was everywhere. The offense, just along for the ride. Tony Banks was benched mid-season. Trent Dilfer stepped in, didn't screw up, and let Jamal Lewis and Shannon Sharp do the work. In the playoffs, the Ravens didn't flinch. They held the Broncos, Titans, and Raiders to a combined 16 points. Then, in Super Bowl 35, they demolished the Giants 34-7, with the Giants' only score coming off a kick return. Baltimore went from a laughingstock in '96 to a Super Bowl champion 4 years later, and they did it with one of the most terrifying defenses the NFL has ever seen. By the way, I'm going to be posting a lot here, so it would mean a lot if you subscribed and dropped a like for the algorithm. Buffalo Bills, 1990, 13-3. The 1990 Buffalo Bills started a dynasty with how they played, because this team was loaded. Jim Kelly at quarterback, Thurman Thomas in the backfield, Andre Reed stretching the field, and the defense anchored by Bruce Smith in his prime, wrecking everything in sight. The Bills went 13-3, led the rogue in points scored, and made blowing out opponents look routine. They dropped 51 on the Raiders in the AFC Championship, still the most ever scored in a conference title game. Super Bowl 25 should have been the crowning moment. They were 1 kick away, but Scott Norwood's 47-yard attempt sailed wide right. Heartbreak? Yeah. But 1990 was the launch point for 4 straight Super Bowl appearances. This was the year Buffalo finally put the league on notice, and they haven't been forgotten since. Carolina Panthers, 2015, 15-1. The 2015 Carolina Panthers didn't sneak up on teams. They kicked the door down. Cam Newton was unstoppable. 35 passing touchdowns, 10 more on the ground, and the league MVP. Jonathan Stewart powered the run game, and tight end Greg Olsen became Newton's go-to weapon. But this wasn't just an offensive show. The defense was a wall. Luke Kuechly and Thomas Davis ran the linebacker core like generals, and Josh Norman locked down receivers all season. Carolina went 15-1. They steamrolled Seattle, then embarrassed Arizona 49-15 in the NFC Championship. Super Bowl 50? A disaster. Von Miller and the Broncos defense smothered them. Newton got hit 13 times. fumbled twice, and the magic ran out. But 2015 wasn't a fluke. It was dominance, loud, fast, and relentless. The best season in Panthers history, no debate. Chicago Bears, 1985, 15-1, Super Bowl champions. The 1985 Chicago Bears weren't just good, they were terrifying. Their defense was legendary. Mike Singletary, Richard Dent, Wilbur Marshall, and Buddy Ryan calling the 46 defense like a mad genius. They led the league in points allowed, forced 54 turnovers, and knocked quarterbacks into next week. Jim McMahon didn't need to do much, just keep the offense moving. Walter Payton handled the rest. They started 12-0, finished 15-1, and then went full demolition mode in the playoffs. 21-0 over the Giants, 24-0 over the Rams. Then in Super Bowl 20, they flattened the Patriots 46-10. They recorded 7 sacks. One touchdown was scored by a 300-pound lineman. The 85 Bears weren't just champions. They were a cultural phenomenon, a once-in-a-lifetime wrecking crew. Cincinnati Bengals, 1988, 12-4. The 1988 Bengals were built different. Bruma Esiason was named MVP. Ickey Woods did the Ickey Shuffle all season, and the offensive line gave defenses nightmares. The Bengals averaged over 28 points a game and racked up 3,000 passing yards and 2,600 rushing. The defense wasn't flashy, just solid enough. And with Sam Wyche calling the shots, this team felt dangerous every Sunday. They crushed the Oilers and edged the Bills to reach Super Bowl 23. One final drive away from glory. But Joe Montana happened. With 3:10 left, he marched 92 yards and broke Cincinnati hearts with 34 seconds on the clock. Still, 1988 was Cincinnati's golden run, creative, explosive, and 1 minute short of a ring. Cleveland Browns, 1964, 10-3-1, NFL champions. Before heartbreak became tradition, the Browns were kings. In 1964, led by quarterback Frank Ryan and the unstoppable Jim Brown, the Browns went 10-3-1 and reached the NFL championship. The defense? Underrated. The offense? Brutal to stop. Jim Brown averaged 5.2 yards per carry and racked up over 1,400 yards. But the real magic came in the title game. Facing Johnny Unitas and the heavily favored Colts, the Browns didn't just win. They shut them out 27-0. It's still Cleveland's last championship. No Super Bowl rings, no confetti cents. But 1964, that was the year the Browns didn't just believe, they delivered. Dallas Cowboys, 1992, 13-3. This is when the best play began. 1992 wasn't just a turnaround. It was the Cowboys kicking the door down. Troy Aikman matured into a field general. Emmitt Smith led the league in rushing. Michael Irvin, just unstoppable. Jimmy Johnson's squad had swagger, but also the numbers. They ranked second in scoring defense and had the top-ranked offense in total yards. They steamrolled through the playoffs, beating the Eagles, dismantling the 49ers, and meeting the Bills in Super Bowl 27. Final score was 52-17. Aikman threw 4 touchdowns. The defense forced 9 turnovers. 9. 1992 was the start of a 3-ring run in 4 years. It wasn't just their best season. It was a warning shot to the entire NFL. Denver Broncos, 1998, 14-2. John Elway's final ride, a masterpiece. The 1998 Broncos came out swinging, winning their first 13 games. Terrell Davis ran for 2,008 yards, one of only a few backs ever to crack that mark. He was the MVP. Shannon Sharpe kept chains moving. Rod Smith and Ed McCaffrey stretched the field. The defense, top 10 across the board. Reliable, relentless, and perfectly complementary to that high-octane offense. They blew through the playoffs and squared off against the Falcons in Super Bowl 33. It wasn't close, 34-19. Elway rushed for a touchdown, threw for another, and walked away on top. 1998 wasn't just Denver's best season. It was the perfect ending to an all-time career. Detroit Lions, 1991, 12-4. Before the heartbreak, before the memes, there was 1991. The Lions didn't just win. They roared. Barry Sanders was untouchable, rushing for over 1,500 yards and juking defenders into retirement. Eric Kramer took over at quarterback and did just enough while the defense ranked top 10 in points allowed. They finished the season 12-4, won the NFC Central, then blew out the Cowboys 38-6 in the divisional round. It was their first playoff win since 1957. They ran into Washington in the NFC Championship and got steamrolled, but for one brief moment, the Lions looked like contenders. 1991 was the dream before decades of drought. Green Bay Packers 2011, 15-1. Coming off a Super Bowl, the Packers went nuclear in 2011. Aaron Rodgers was at his absolute peak, throwing 45 touchdowns, just 6 picks, and winning MVP. The offense led the league in scoring. Jordy Nelson and Greg Jennings were shredding secondaries. They started 13-0 and ended with the best record in franchise history, 15-1. But there's a twist. Despite all the dominance, they lost their first playoff game, which was a shocking upset to the Giants. Still, 2011 was an offensive clinic. Rodgers was the cheat code. It wasn't the fairy tale ending fans wanted, but in terms of regular season firepower, 2011 was untouchable. Houston Texans 2012, 12-4. This is as good as it ever got. The 2012 Texans were bullies. They started the season 11-1. Arian Foster was a machine, rushing for 15 touchdowns. Andre Johnson put up over 1,500 receiving yards. Matt Schaub wasn't elite, but he didn't have to be. The defense, led by Defensive Player of the Year J.J. Watt, was top 5 in points allowed. Watt finished with 20.5 sacks, pure dominance. They rolled into the playoffs, beat the Bengals in the wild card, then ran into Tom Brady in the divisional round. But for Texans fans, this was the peak. 2012 was the year Houston had a real shot, and everyone knew it. Indianapolis Colts, 2006, 12-4. Peyton Manning had already racked up MVPs, but in 2006, he finally got the one thing missing, a ring. The Colts weren't perfect. Their run defense was the worst in the league. But when the playoffs hit, something clicked. They beat the Chiefs, survived the Ravens, and then came that AFC Championship. Down 21-3 to the Patriots. Peyton led a comeback for the ages, 38-34. Colts win. Then they rolled over the Bears in the Super Bowl. Peyton took MVP, and Tony Dungy became the first black head coach to win it all. The 2006 Colts didn't dominate wire to wire, but they peaked when it mattered most. Jacksonville Jaguars, 2017, 10-6. The 2017 Jags had a defense that hit like a freight train. They called themselves Saxonville, and they earned it. They finished second in total defense, second in sacks, first in forced fumbles. Jalen Ramsey, Calais Campbell, and Myles Jack were everywhere. Blake Bortles wasn't elite, but he didn't need to be. Leonard Fournette bulldozed defenders for over 1,000 yards. They shocked the Steelers in the divisional round, then led 20-10 in the AFC Championship against the Patriots before Brady did Brady things. Still, for a team with no history of postseason success, 2017 was electric. For once, Jacksonville belonged. Kansas City Chiefs, 2019, 12-4. The year Patrick Mahomes went full legend. The 29 Chiefs didn't just win, they erased deficits like it was nothing. Down 24-0 to the Texans, won by 20. Down 10 in the fourth to the 49ers in the Super Bowl, scored 21 straight to win 31-20. Mahomes won Super Bowl MVP. Tyreek Hill torched secondaries. Travis Kelce was unstoppable. And the defense, often malaligned, stepped up when it counted. It was Andy Reid's first ring and the start of a dynasty. 2019 wasn't just a championship, it was a statement. The Chiefs had arrived. Oakland Raiders, 1976, 13-1. 1976 was when the Raiders reminded everyone why silver and black meant fear. They steamrolled the competition with a balanced offense and a defense that smothered opponents. Ken Stabler threw 27 touchdowns and managed the game like a pro. The running game, led by Mark Van Eegen, kept defenses honest. Their defense was dominant, ranking top 5 in fewest points allowed. The Raiders lost just one regular season game, but peaked at the perfect time, winning Super Bowl VI in a blowout against the Vikings. This wasn't just a great year. It was a blueprint for Raider dominance that echoes decades later. San Diego Chargers, 2006, 14-2. The 2006 Chargers flipped their fortunes and dominated the league. Led by MVP quarterback Phillip Rivers, they powered through the regular season with a high-octane offense that ranked top 5 in scoring. LaDainian Tomlinson was the engine, rushing for over 1,700 yards and 28 total touchdowns. Their defense was no joke either, anchored by Sean Merriman and a fierce pass rush. They pressured opponents relentlessly. The Chargers finished with the best record in the AFC and earned a playoff spot. It wasn't a Super Bowl year, but 2006 marked their rise as one of the league's toughest contenders. St. Louis Rams, 1999, 13-3. The Rams bounced back in spectacular fashion in 1999, led by a rookie head coach and a new quarterback named Kurt Warner, who went from grocery store clerk to NFL MVP. The offense was electric, scoring over 500 points, the highest in the league thanks to Warner's pinpoint passing and Marshall Faulk's dual-threat running. Their defense improved just enough to support the offense, and the Rams cruised through the playoffs. They capped it off by winning Super Bowl 34 in dramatic fashion, ending a decade of struggles and cementing the greatest show on turf legacy. Miami Dolphins, 1972, 14-0. The 1972 Dolphins pulled off the only perfect season in NFL history. Coached by Don Shula and led by quarterback Bob Grease and running back Larry Skonka, they dominated every opponent. Their defense, known as the no-name defense, was suffocating, allowing just 12.2 points per game. They cruised through the regular season undefeated, then won every playoff game, capping it with a Super Bowl victory. That season set the gold standard for excellence. No losses, no doubts, just pure domination. Minnesota Vikings, 1998, 15-1. The Vikings hit their peak in 1998 with a high-powered offense led by Randall Cunningham and the legendary Randy Moss in his rookie year. They scored a league-best 556 points, setting an NFL record at the time. Their offense was relentless, mixing deep passes and a powerful run game. The defense stepped up enough to support the onslaught. They rolled to a 15-1 regular season but fell short in the NFC Championship. Still, 1998 was the Vikings at their best, explosive, dominant, and nearly unbeatable. New England Patriots, 2007, 16-0. Before the dynasty fully took hold, the 2007 Patriots rewrote the record books with a perfect regular season. Tom Brady was in MVP form, throwing for 50 touchdowns and over 4,800 yards. Randy Moss shattered rookie receiving records, and their offense was unstoppable. The defense improved enough to complement the offense. They went 16-0 but stumbled in the Super Bowl against the Giants. Still, that season marked the greatest offense the NFL had ever seen, and the Patriots' rise to dominance was undeniable. New Orleans Saints, 2009, 13-3. The Saints' 2009 season was their breakthrough. Led by Drew Brees and coach Sean Payton, they transformed from perennial losers into Super Bowl champions. The offense was explosive, with Brees throwing for over 4,300 yards and 34 touchdowns. Their defense stepped up at the right moments, especially in the playoffs, shutting down some of the league's best offenses. The team finished 13-3 and capped it all off by winning Super Bowl 44, the city's first ever NFL title. That year erased decades of doubt and established the Saints as a powerhouse. New York Giants, 2011, 9-7. The Giants bounced back from inconsistency to finish 9-7 and sneak into the playoffs. Eli Manning was on fire, throwing for nearly 5,000 yards and 29 touchdowns, career highs that proved he was still elite. The defense, which had struggled before, tightened up late in the season to help seal the deal. No Super Bowl this time, but 2011 marked a solid return to relevance for Big Blue. New York Jets, 2009, 9-7. Rex Ryan's rookie year as head coach saw the Jets turn heads with a 9-7 record and a playoff spot. Rookie quarterback Mark Sanchez was raw but showed flashes with 12 touchdowns and 13 picks. The defense was the real star, aggressive, hard-hitting, and ranked top 10 in points allowed. 2009 was the year the Jets went from rebuilding to contenders, setting the stage for bigger things ahead. Philadelphia Eagles, 2017, 13-3. The 2017 Eagles finally shook their playoff curse with a dominant season. Led by rookie quarterback Carson Wentz, who threw 33 touchdowns and just 7 interceptions, they powered an offensive that ranked third in the NFL in scoring. Their defense was no slouch either, allowing just 19 points per game. Despite losing Wentz to injury late in the season, backup Nick Foles stepped up and led the team all the way to their first ever Super Bowl win. The 2017 Eagles went from underdogs to champions, finally delivering Philadelphia its long-awaited NFL glory. Pittsburgh Steelers, 1978, 14-2. The 1978 Steelers were the peak of the Steel Curtain era. With Terry Bradshaw throwing 28 touchdowns and the defense suffocating opponents, they dominated on both sides of the ball. The team allowed just 15.9 points per game, the best defense in the league, while the offense racked up over 320 points. They cruised through the playoffs and crushed the Dallas Cowboys in Super Bowl VIII. This season cemented the Steelers as the NFL's most feared dynasty, winning their third Super Bowl in 6 years. San Francisco 49ers, 1984, 15-1. The 1984 49ers were unstoppable. Led by Joe Montana, who threw for 3,611 yards and 28 touchdowns, the offense was both precise and explosive. Their defense was one of the league's best, allowing just 15.7 points per game. The team finished with a 15-1 record, steamrolling through the regular season and playoffs. They capped it off by crushing the Miami Dolphins 38-16 in Super Bowl XIX. This season marked the rise of the 49ers as an NFL dynasty and launched Montana's legacy as a clutch winner. Seattle Seahawks, 2013, 13-3. The 2013 Seahawks defined dominance on both sides of the ball. Russell Wilson led a balanced offense that was efficient and explosive when it counted. But the real story was their defense, the Legion of Boom, a unit that shut down offenses all year long, allowing just 14.4 points per game, the best in the league. They finished 13-3, steamrolled through the playoffs, and capped the year by beating the Broncos 43-8 in Super Bowl 48. This season solidified Seattle as a defensive powerhouse and crowned them champions. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 2002, 12-4. The 2002 Buccaneers were a defensive nightmare for opponents. Coached by John Gruden, Tampa Bay's defense led the league in points allowed, suffocating offenses with relentless pressure and lockdown coverage. On offense, Brad Johnson managed the game efficiently, spreading the ball and avoiding mistakes. They cruised through the playoffs and crushed the Raiders 48-21 in Super Bowl 37, finally delivering Tampa Bay its first ever NFL championship. Tennessee Titans, 1999, 13-3. The 1999 Titans were a team built on grit and heart, led by Steve McNair's calm leadership and Eddie George's powerful running. They dominated defensively, finishing top 5 in points allowed. Tennessee's playoff run was highlighted by the Music City Miracle, a last-second kickoff return that stunned the Bills. Though they fell short in Super Bowl 34, losing narrowly to the Rams, the season remains one of the franchise's greatest achievements. Washington Football Team, 1991, 14-2. In 1991, Washington was a near-perfect team, finishing 14-2 and showcasing dominance on both sides of the ball. Led by quarterback Mark Rypien and an opportunistic defense under coach Joe Gibbs, the team was a playoff force. Washington overwhelmed opponents in the postseason and secured their third Super Bowl title by crushing the Bills 37-24 in Super Bowl 26, cementing their legacy as one of the NFL's elite franchises. If you enjoyed this, I'm going to be posting a lot here, so it would mean a lot if you subscribed. Thanks for watching.